Thank you. This is such a special film. Thank you for staying back and so we can do a little bit of a deep dive. I I, I was telling Sid this is the third time I've seen it, but the first time I've seen it on a screen, and it's really much more special watching it with an audience. You really understand what the movies are and why the collective shared experience of watching a film is unlike anything. I'm gonna start with the star of the show, Bhavin. आप आपने ये पिक्चर कितनी बार देखी है? बोर हो जाते हो बार बार देख के? आप अभी मुझे बता रहे थे 2 बार प्रीमियर पे देखा, कई बार देखी है, कितनी बार देखी है?
2-3 बार देखी होगी।
अच्छा, 2-3 बार में तो बोर नहीं होते ना?
नहीं, अब मैंने ही बनाया तो मेरे को तो ऐसा लगता है।
खुद को देखना पसंद आता है?
नहीं, ज़्यादा नहीं आता।
भावन, ये फिल्म के रिलीज के पहले आप कई लोगों से मिले हैं। मैंने देखा जो जो मुंबई में प्रीमियर हुई थी वहाँ आप विद्या बालन से मिले, दीपिका पादुकोण से मिले, सलमान खान से मिले, बहुत सारे लोगों से आप मिलते गए हैं। सबसे लोग क्या कहते हैं आपको फिल्म, आपके परफॉर्मेंस के बारे में, फिल्म के बारे में, जो आपके साथ जैसे रहा है, मतलब आपने क्या क्या कहते हैं?
ऐसे सब ऐसे कहते हैं कि कितने में फिल्म था तेरा, એટલે मतलब कि कितनी बार में ये फिल्म था। मैंने कहा, मैं कहता हूँ ये पहला फिल्म था मेरा। फिर मेरे को ऐसे देखते सब, ऐसे काम कैसे कर लेते हो तुम। और मेरा सबसे बड़ा मिला तो हार्दिक पांड्या से मिला हूँ। मेरा सबसे पहला ही उन्होंने कहा था कि कॉन्ग्रेचुलेसन आपको ऑस्कर में जाने के लिए।
Sid, I'm hoping you'll put it into perspective. Pan's not here with us. Sid, I feel like for for people of perhaps our age, when you watch a film like this, it sort of reminds you why one loves the movies. It reminds when one watches the whole switch from analog to digital, you realize what one has lost, and yet one embraces the modernism and the future. Can you talk about what sort of appealed to you when you sort of came on board?
Sure. And as you said, Rajiv, thanks firstly for hosting this.
Oh, thank you.
As you said, it's unfortunate that we don't have Nalin here to talk about it, because I mean this is so inspired by his own life.
Right.
And Dheer Momaya, who was actually the producer who started the whole ball rolling. They're both in LA at this point of time on our
Oscar campaign.
quixotic sort of Oscar campaign. Let's see how that goes. But when I came on board was when the film was shot already, and all these people had done their wonderful work, and I got to be able to see it on the screen. And exactly what you said, I mean, it took me back to my childhood, sitting in Strand Cinema and watching a movie, or sitting in Regal or Roxy or Eros and seeing these sort of characters larger than life sort of hover over you, and everything melting away, and you just being one with what's happening on screen and forgetting everything else. And I think we've all had that magical experience of the first time we've been in a cinema hall watching a movie. And the way that Nalin was able to recreate that with, of course, some wonderful, wonderful photography was so exceptional, because it just took you back instantly. And there's so much of his childhood in this. And you can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell it's authentic, you can tell it's felt, you can tell it's real. And yes, I think for people, as you said, of our generation, that nostalgia of film moving to like sort of digital, while it might be much more convenient and obviously makes a lot of sense overall, there was a certain quality to those, I mean, especially for us in the business, those cans of film having to be transported from city to city. If you had to do a screening for someone, sending someone in a taxi or a rickshaw with reels and reels of film, there was a certain sort of nostalgia associated with it. But I think what the film shows is that, like with all things, life has to move on. And it leaves you with that sense of hope where one beautiful thing can create another. Something of beauty can come out of the destruction of a certain thing of beauty as well. And I think that's really what I came away with at the end of it.
Sure. That's so true you say that, because that last shot when he's looking at the women in the train with the bangles, it sort of shows you that even in its most sort of destroyed form or its reinvented form, film or celluloid is still giving pleasure in some way, and it's still sort of giving happiness. Swapnil, I want to ask you as the DOP of the film. There's this film can be sort of there are different things one can talk about. There is, of course, the whole nostalgic element, and Sid spoke about that, and it's true. Even, and I think you'll agree. Even if you haven't had that experience, even if you haven't grown up in a village and grown up in the fields and betting on lions and doing all of that, I think if it feels authentic and it feels real, you'll relate to it even if you haven't had that specific experience. So one part of it, of course, is the nostalgia of growing up, of friends getting together, the spirit of jugaad. The other part, of course, is food, and that's just those scenes are just so beautiful of Richa cooking the food, of course, and then of course there is the the film, the theater, the cinema halls. What was the visual brief, and can you talk about how you all sort of arrived at, because it's especially those scenes, him in the theater looking at the beam from the projector for the first time. You bathe those scenes in this beautiful orange, and it's just beautifully evocative. Can you talk about sort of how you arrived at the visual palette for the entire film, and was it broken up? Did you decide that different portions would look different?
First of all the food that you see, I've eaten.
Oh.
Like the
Rishabh,
moment.
did you make it though?
Some she did. Yeah. Nalan's younger brother who cooked that all that amazing food, and I had everything. But I mean, yeah, the nostalgia of film and digital, I think is too close to me as well. My father had a color lab, film processing lab, and he owned and ran it for a number of years, and then digital came and it all shut down and everything. So I've seen it too close also, just as Nalan did. So that was there. And I don't think me and Nalan, we speak in terms of color palette and in terms of how the shot would be taken and all of that. I think, thankfully, we've kind of crossed that. And I completely trust where he wants to take it. And I'm sure there's trust that comes from there. Yeah. And I don't think there were conversations as to this would look this way and that would look that way or any of those. Like, he got all the magical stuff together and we kind of made it, So.
Sure. How lovely.
There's just one thing I want to say, that, the film's been seen obviously by a lot of non-film people as well. And the one reaction that so many of them have, which is so rare, is, wow, what a great film, what great cinematography. And that's not something that you often hear
From
a general audience talk about. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I want to ask all the actors. ये हमें already पता है कि ये नलन की real life से inspired है. ये किरदार उनके माँ, उनके बाप नलन खुद, और आपका भी किरदार भविष्य, I believe उनका एक दोस्त था मोहम्मद, जो जिन पर आपका किरदार sort of आधारित है. क्या आप बता सकते हैं, क्या नलन ने आपको brief किया था कि उनके माँ बाप कैसे थे? How did you become these people? Was everything क्या सब script में था कि आपको क्या आप में से किसी ने भी जो रियल लाइफ इंस्पिरेशन से उनसे मिले थे, किस तरह से आपने प्रिपेयर किया इन किरदारों के लिए?
नहीं, कभी नहीं. ये सब ख़त्म हो जाने के बाद ये पता चला, और यूट्यूब में देखने के बाद पता चला कि कोई मोहम्मद भाई करके थे जो उनसे मिलते थे, और ऐसे ही जाना. और जब शॉट्स होते तब नलिन सर एकदम प्यार से समझाते थे कि आपको ये करना है, सिर्फ ये करना है. तब जाके पता चला था यूट्यूब के ज़रिए. हाँ,
जब नलिन सर ने पहली बार हम लोगों से काम करना शुरू किया तो उन्होंने किरदार के बारे में बताया, उनका बैकड्रॉप क्या है, क्या फ्यूचरिस्टिक अप्रोच होगा, वो सब उन्होंने बताया. पर उस वक्त हमें नहीं बताया था कि वी आर प्लेइंग द रियल लाइफ कैरेक्टर. एक्चुअली आपने एक शॉट देखा होगा है फिल्म में कि जहाँ ये समय है, एक दादा जैसे आदमी को चाय दे रहे हैं, वो नलिन सर के रियल फादर हैं, जिनका किरदार मैंने निभाया है. उनसे मिला भी, मुहूर्त के वक्त भी मिला, पर जब मैं परफॉर्म कर रहा था तब मुझे नहीं पता था कि मैं उनका किरदार कर रहा हूँ. हाँ, नलिन सर ने एक एक चीज़ पहले से कैरेक्टर का क्या आपको अप्रोच रखना है, क्या ग्राफ है, वो सब उन्होंने बहुत अच्छे से हमें एक्सप्लेन किया था. तो हमें उस हिसाब से काफ़ी मदद मिली कि हम अपना कैरेक्टर बिल्डअप कैसे करें. सो दैट्स द थिंग कि रियल कैरेक्टर हम परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं, उनको देख के करना है या उनको समझ के करना है, वो सब उन्होंने नहीं किया था। उन्होंने सिर्फ हमें समझाया था कि ये किरदार आपका है, इनका फजल का है तो इनको फजल का समझाया था, मेरा बापू जी का है तो बापू जी क्या अप्रोच से ये फिल्म में है वो समझाया था। यस रिचा।
तो मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं कहा गया था, मेनली तो ये कि बहुत कम बात करती हैं और इनकी लाइफ यही है, इनके बच्चे, इनका ध्यान रखना, ये घर, ये। और एक वो जब भी वो मेन डायरेक्शन देते थे कि अंदर से सेटिस्फाइड, अंदर से खुश, अंदर से सुखी, तो आई थिंक जस्ट सो आई न्यू, तो just to be happy from inside, I had to put in a lot to be just really satisfied with who I am, whatever I am. So that's all. Baki, he was very clear. I think the credit is all Nalin
Of
sir's.
course.
He was so clear what exactly he wants, and that made our job very easy. He knew, so he directed us. Whatever you see on screen is just his direction.
मेरे लिए बहुत टफ था कि जितना हमारा शूटिंग चला 3 महीने, जितना मैं वो मजाक मस्ती कुछ नहीं किया, क्योंकि इसमें मेरा अप्रोच हुआ है ना, तो यूं करके मुझे वो मूड में रहने के लिए फ्लोर पे ज़्यादा मस्ती मजाक मैंने नहीं की है। दे ऑल आर एंजॉयिंग लॉट।
बट क्या शूट करने के पहले आप लोग एक दूसरे को जानते थे, आपने टाइम स्पेंड किया एक साथ, ये जो रिलेशनशिप्स जो स्क्रीन पर इतने रियल लग रहे हैं, वो किस तरह से आपने अपने
मैं बताऊं,
हाँ
शूट स्टार्ट होने के पहले मैं और दीपेन तो दोनों अहमदाबाद गुजरात में रहते हैं, तो कई लम्हों में मिलना हुआ था, लेकिन ऋचा से मिलना नहीं हुआ था। लेकिन मैं एक सिंगर भी हूँ, तो मैं शूट के पहले, बीच में और जब मुझे टाइम मिले मैं गाता रहता था। तो पहले बहुत अच्छा लगा दीपेन को, तो दीपेन जी ने मुझे बताया यार मुझे सिखा ना, तू कैसे सिंगिंग करते हैं। और फिर अच्छा लगा ऋचा को। तो हम तीनों जब शूट नहीं होता था और जब ब्रेक आता था तो हम तीनों गाते रहते थे और बहुत मजाक किया, बहुत मस्ती किया। तभी इंट्रो हुआ और ऐसा इंट्रो हुआ कि ये लाइफ टाइम चलता रहेगा भाविन के साथ और सभी 6 बच्चों के साथ, ये लाइफ टाइम चलेगा।
हम लोग जब हमारा जब ऑडिशन के बाद हम लोगों का सिलेक्शन हो गया, उसके बाद बॉन्डिंग बनाने के लिए काफ़ी दिन तक हम लोग साथ रहे, वर्कशॉप जैसा वर्कआउट किया हुआ था, क्योंकि काफ़ी बच्चे थे, 6 बच्चे। आपने जो चलाला गैंग पूरी देखी, तो वो बच्चों के साथ काम करना एक डिफरेंट होता है, क्योंकि जैसे ऋचा है, मैं हूँ, भावेश हैं, हमको उनकी और जाकर के परफॉर्म करना है। वो कुछ भी करेंगे उनको टेंशन नहीं दे रहा है हमें वो लोग जो भी कर रहे हैं हमें उसको एडजस्ट करके अपने आप को बदलना है। तो उसके लिए हम लोगों ने पहले शूट से पहले 1 वीक तक वर्कशॉप जैसा रखा, जिसमें हम पूरा दिन बच्चों के साथ रहते थे, बच्चों की उनकी एक्टिविटीज़ और वो जो हम थिएटर की जो एक्सरसाइज वगैरह जब बोलते हैं, ऐसी काफ़ी वर्कशॉप का टाइम हम लोगों ने स्पेंड किया। तो उस वक्त से हमारा बॉन्डिंग हो गया। जैसे भाविन के साथ मेरा था कि जब पहली बार मिला तो हम दोनों एक दूसरे को पहचानते नहीं थे। नलिन सर ने वर्कआउट किया था, हम दोनों को गाड़ी में भेज दिया, पूरा दिन आप साथ रहो, ये आपका बाप का किरदार कर रहा है, ये आपके बच्चे का कर रहा है। तो पहले दिन तो पूरे दिन हम घूमे, हम दोनों ने बात ही नहीं की थी शायद। भाविन, हमने बात की थी, थोड़ी की थी। फिर ऐसे 1 2 3 दिन गए, फिर हमारा बॉन्डिंग बना और वही जो बॉन्डिंग बना वो स्क्रीन पे अब आपको दिख रहा है, ऐसा है।
और मेरा भाविन के साथ कन्वर्सेशन होने वाला था, तो मुझे भी गाड़ी में भेज दिया। तो मैंने सोचा कहाँ से बात चालू करूँ मैं इसके साथ। तो सामने सब गाय भैंस आ रही थी, तो मैं ये मेरे बाजू में ही थे, तो मैंने बोला माय गॉड ये शेर कहाँ से आ गए। तुरंत ये गुस्सा होके, शेर नहीं है भाई, इसको गाय बोलते हैं। हैं? इसको गाय बोलते हैं? ये तो शेर है। तो बोले भाई कहाँ से आए हो आप? मैं तो यहाँ से ही हूँ। इस तरह से चालू हुआ हम दोनों।
भाविन, आप पहली बार एक्टिंग कर रहे थे, सबसे ज़्यादा मदद किसने किया आपको? आप किस तरह मतलब आपको कोई डर नहीं था कि ये कर पाऊंगा नहीं कर पाऊंगा? कभी नहीं ये नहीं था कि मैं शायद नहीं कर पाऊँ, एक्टिंग नहीं आती है? पहली बार कर रहे थे?
सबसे ज़्यादा मदद मैंने की.
मेरे को अब ऐसा लगा ही नहीं कि डर लग रहा है, क्योंकि मैं ऐसे ही शेर के जैसे रह रहा था, डरने का क्या. और सबसे ज़्यादा मेरे को मदद की तो नलिन सर ने, क्योंकि वो और मैं दोनों साथ में रहते थे. ब्रेक आती थी, कोई भी ब्रेक आती थी, टेक ख़त्म होने वाला होता था, तो हम दोनों साथ रहते थे. वो हमको रोज़ बादाम खिलाते थे. सेट पर हम सिर्फ मैं और नलिन सर ही बादाम खाते थे, फिर सब ऐसे देख रहे थे हमको भी खिलाओ. स्वप्निल सर तो,
नहीं, मुझे मना था.
और नलिन सर ने कहा था कि मेरे को ऐसा नहीं कहा था कि ये तेरा रोल है, मेरे को ऐसा कभी नहीं कहा था. मेरे को सिर्फ ऐसे ही कहा था तेरे को जैसा ऐसा आता है वो कर तू, और मैंने ये कर दिया.
अब एक फिल्म बना दी, लोगों को बहुत पसंद आया, ऑस्कर्स तक जा रही है. एक्टिंग करेंगे आप अभी, क्या लग रहा है?
चांस मिलेगा तो करेंगे.
पर आपके दिल में है कि करें?
50% पढ़ाई है और 50% एक्टिंग है.
Very good. Swapnil, in many ways, like you said, if this is something that was so close to you, this is, and you see it, and I'm sorry I'm asking a question which I would perhaps also ask Nalin, he's not here, so those will come towards you. This is doffing one's hat to the greats, to the cinema greats. Did you see it as that? Did you, there are the references. The trains are obviously a reference to Ray. The trains are, there are bits that, there is Cinema Paradiso, which is hat's been doffed at. Did you all speak about that, about the tributes, about the little nods?
Not really. One has seen all of this, but there was never really a conversation about, except for the last where you see those. The three of them with Manu, kind of coming back on the small that railway thing, which is like from Stalker.
Right.
That was one place where we truly wanted to kind of get the same feeling, including sound and everything. So, but other than that, it wasn't really a conversation about that in particular.
Right.
But one kind of understood where he wanted to take it.
Right. Sid, the conversation now, of course, is only Oscar. It is India's entry. Can you talk about that and what that involves? Because I think there's not a lot of information about it. I don't know whether that's something that's well known. People assume it's nominated. This is just the start, isn't it? What is the journey ahead and what are the plans?
You're right, this is just the start. So we are India's official selection, but the same way every country has its own official selection. So that's more than 100 films, I'd say 120 to 150 films. Basically, there's a lot of talk about lobbying, etc., but what you really need to do is be able to get as many members of the Academy to watch your film as possible. And for that, you organize screenings, you make sure that the film is publicized, it's talked about, it's something that Academy, because they have such a plethora of options available to them.
Right.
They've now got a screening room, which is actually a digital screening room.
Right.
So pretty much every film nominated for an Academy Award gets put onto that screening room. They don't even really need to make the effort to leave their home. But it also means that now they've got this whole bunch of hundreds of movies at their fingertips. So how is it that you're going to be able to get them to watch yours?
Right.
And then, so there's a jury that is the international feature jury. And basically, you won't know who they are.
Correct.
You've just got to lobby, as in put the movie out there to all the Academy members and hope that you're reaching the ones who are part of the international feature jury. So that's really the entire exercise that we're busy with right now. And that's what Dheer and Nalin are working on. And I leave tonight for a week to, drive the campaign forward.
Right. It is the most competitive category in a sense, isn't it? Because that's the one that has the maximum number of entries.
The maximum number of entries.
They also release a long list before because it's such a large number that
That's
just
right.
5 is not enough. It's not fair. They do a shortlist of 9 first.
I think they've taken it to 15 over the last couple of years. But yes, it is. And also, when you think of the fact that every country is sending its best, right? So in a sense, you're competing with pretty much the best from around the world. Obviously subjective because everyone's sending the best that they believe is the best that year. But it's a tough pool to be in. But fingers crossed.
Of course. I mean, it's so. I mean, one can sort of understand how tough it is when one considers there are only 3 Indian films so far over 87, 88 years
have ever been
made the
nominated.
shortlist. Yeah. Well, best of luck, Sid.
Thank you.
I want to ask everyone here before we open it out to you. इस फिल्म की जो the starting point जो trigger is जब समय of course जय महाकाली स्क्रीन पहली बार थिएटर जाता है and that is the trigger for the love that for him falling in love with the movies and और ये picture है, it's also about the making of a filmmaker. In many ways you see the milestones that made Nalin who he is. So I want to ask everyone, do you all remember the first film that you all watched in the theater and how it made you feel?
I saw Jalwa. Nasiruddin Shah, and obviously my mom and dad didn't even have to buy a ticket. I was standing and watching it. So yeah.
Do you remember how it made you feel? I mean,
incredible, and I don't know if that was the seed or whether everything that happened later, but I definitely remember scenes from it. So.
मैंने देखी थी उस वक्त रॉकी संजय दत्त सर की, और संजय दत्त सर का भूत सवार हो गया था और उनकी आवाज़ भी है मेरे गले में. हाँ, बहुत सारी आवाज़ें हैं. अमिताभ बच्चन. हाँ, अरे सर्किट अब उनके बापू ने कहलाए कि कोई एक गाल पे लाफा मारे ना तो दूसरा देने का है, लेकिन कोई दूसरे गाल पे लाफा मारे तो क्या करने का है, ये बापू ने नहीं कहलाए रे.
Thank you.
फिर अमिताभ बच्चन सर की आवाज़ है जो इस फिल्म में भी मैंने थोड़ा किया है. देवी और सज्जनों, अभी आप सभी को यहाँ पर देखकर बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है और ईश्वर से प्रार्थना करेंगे कि ये जिस तरह टाइटैनिक 11 ऑस्कार लेके गई थी, लास्ट फिल्म शो 12 ऑस्कार लेके जाए. थैंक यू.
अगर आपको याद है?
और मैंने पहला मूवी देखा था किक.
अच्छा.
हाँ, मेरा जन्मदिन था तब देखा था मैंने. उसमें वो सलमान सर ऐसे अचानक से आते थे ना, तो एक बार आए ना तो मैं डर गया. मैंने उस फिल्म को वापस से देखा ही नहीं. वो अचानक से आए, वो भूत बन के आए थे उस फिल्म में, तो मेरे को डर लगा था. तब का मैंने वो फिल्म ही नहीं देखा है.
So I don't really remember a movie as such, but जब मैं छोटी थी तब जो टीवी बॉक्स होता था, हर संडे उठते चित्रहार, 7 बजे हेमा मालिनी, सुंदर सी, और तब मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि इसके अंदर लोग बैठ के ये सब करते हैं. इसके अंदर बैठ के इतने सुंदर सुंदर लोग, हेमा मालिनी, लाइक यू सी, एक बच्चे को क्या होता होगा कि इतनी सुंदर. हम तो कहते थे मम्मी आप क्यों हो, हमें तो ये वाली मम्मी चाहिए, यू नो. सो मुझे ऐसा मेरा दिमाग में चलता रहता था कि इसको मैं टीवी को खोल दूँ तो इसके अंदर मुझे मिल जाएंगे, मैं उनको निकाल लूँगी, या मैं कहीं पे भी पहुँच सकती हूँ शायद अगर मैं टीवी के डब्बे को खोल लूँ. और मैंने शायद खोला वोला भी है, एंड देन आई वाज सो डिसअपॉइंटेड बिकॉज उसके अंदर सिर्फ वायर्स और बोल्स एंड जस्ट नथिंग. So as a kid, then of course वो picture clear हुआ था कि इसके अंदर नहीं है, but for a very long time I had this imagination कि you know there's a world inside television. So yeah.
Lovely. Dipin?
मेरा पूरा उल्टा है. जब मैं छोटा होऊंगा तब मेरे मम्मी पापा ने मुझे बताया कि जब भी वो लोग थिएटर में लेके जाए ना तो मैं बहुत रोने लगता था. यानी कि अंदर आया अंधेरा हुआ तो रोने लगा. बट समझदार होने के बाद मैंने फिल्म जो देखी है वो मदर इंडिया देखी है, और देखते देखते करीबन मैंने वो फिल्म 25-30 बार देख ली होंगी. एक मदर इंडिया है, फिर है शोले. यानी कि पहले समझदार होने के बाद मदर इंडिया बहुत बार देख ली.
For me, it's actually 2 films, and one English and one Hindi, and both of which I left crying, and therefore didn't see the whole film the first time. So the first one is Sholay. I was a massive Amitabh Bachchan fan, and so at the point of time when he and Veeru are put by the Gaonwalas as a mock death, so that then they can get up and start shooting the Dakus. I thought that Jay was dead, and I was distraught. I had to be taken out of the cinema. And then for some reason they showed me his poster to say he's still alive. I don't know why that was supposed to convince me that he was. And then a film called Benji, which is about a dog. And the dog gets lost at some point, which is when again I was kicking and screaming and had to be taken out. So those two.
Lovely memories. Okay, if we have questions from the room for any of the panelists, we can maybe take those. Yes, the gentleman in the green.
This is such a personal film. It's independent and it has a kind of art house sensibility. And I don't know, do you guys envision a future in which a film like this can do more beyond just work the festival circuit and get an Oscar nomination ultimately? Because that's also such a rare thing to kind of hope for. What is the larger kind of market for a film like this?
We bring Oscars home.
I think the beauty today is that we can look at things theatrically as well as from a streaming perspective, right? So while it might be a challenge theatrically still for movies like this, because we know the inertia now involved in people actually taking a decision to go to a cinema hall, and therefore, weighing the cost of that, the inconvenience of it, versus is it a cinematic experience and going to wow me? I think we're all in the throes of that right now. But the great part is that you today have streaming platforms where you can get the movie out to as many people as you would want to watch it, which in the past with art house movies, once they had their limited release or a platform release or whatever it is, they would just die on the vine and you wouldn't really know where you could then watch them. But today with a Netflix or Amazon or Disney, you know that there's a place that your film can be seen. I think that's the change. But if your question is about theatrical, I have to be candid about it. It still is a challenge commercially.
The lady in the front row.
My question is... Hello. Hi, my question is for Mr. Sonawane. There was this one particular scene where the parents are sitting and they're eating, and there were hardly any lights in it. There was just one lamp, and probably there was this one diya that was lit up. So how do you shoot such scenes?
Yeah, it was actually much brighter here. It's okay. I don't know how, by doing some, not very complicated things, simulating the light that you see in the frame, but I don't know how to really answer. It's not very complicated. So there were a couple of tube lights, something like that, which kind of adds to what you just see as a lamp has another tube light or something like behind it. It's not too complicated. Yeah.
Hi. I just want to extend what he asked over there and what he told us. So when we're talking about Amazons and Netflixes and Hotstars right now, even they are, always looking for a packaged product. Either there has to be a cast that defines it, or there has to be something more than, what we saw. And we are people who really appreciate what we see over here. So how do you really tackle with that? Do you go to those platforms first, pitch it, and then make the film? Or do we take the other route where we make the film and then go to Oscars and then tell them to take it? But if it's not an Oscar film, because there are so many, stories to tell. And I mean, there are a lot of these indigenous, stories which make it there. They have to be really true to the heart and what India is about, to the smallest of places, to the smallest of regions. And then the personal stories come in. So how do we really take it forward to that?
It's a great question, and I'm afraid there aren't any easy answers on that one. I mean, the theatrical market at this point of time is struggling, right? Even for the big ticket films, even for films with stars, it's not an easy time right now for theatrical around the world, not just in India. And therefore, even more so for independent or art house or films that have been put together without any studio or streaming backing. What I think you need to be realistic about is, have you made a film that's so high concept that it cuts through the clutter in a way that becomes a commercially viable proposition at some level? Or is it could be a wonderful film, but is it so slice of life and sort of not really something you can define in a sentence, but more about an emotion or a feeling. Those ones find it even more difficult. So I think the advantage we probably had with this one, obviously you can't base it on it getting to be your country's official selection, because that's a very rare occurrence. But I think the advantage we had here was because it was a film about film, therefore, and it involved there was humor in it, there was a certain amount of nostalgia in it. It was an easier pitch as an art house film versus a few others which might not have as easy a pitch to be able to make. So again, no easy answers, but as I think filmmakers really, when they really want to make something happen, they get the film made and then they find ways to distribute it. Some have success, some don't, but that's an ongoing challenge.
Is there another question? Of course.
Hi. So I don't have really a question or something like that, but I would like to say that I got few answers to my questions. So basically I'm an actor, और धीरे धीरे कैसे घुसते जाते हैं ना फिल्मों में, तो मैंने कैमरा भी एक्सप्लोर करने की कोशिश करी, स्क्रिप्ट में भी एक्सप्लोर करने की कोशिश कर रही हूँ. मैं कहीं पहुँची नहीं हूँ, पर हाँ मैं ट्रेन में बैठ चुकी हूँ. तो बहुत सारे सवालों से दिन भर जूझते रहते हैं हम एक्टर्स और जो भी फिल्म मेकर्स या जो भी हम इंडस्ट्री में आते हैं एक ख्वाब लेकर. तो उसके लिए बहुत सुंदर सी चीज़ें बहुत समझदारी से समझा दी, तो थैंक यू. बस मैं कॉम्प्लीमेंट की तरह पे मैं ये कहूँगी कि रिचा मेरी फ्रेंड है, और रिचा से मैंने बाहर ही कहा था कि एज एन एक्टर जब हम कोई फिल्म देखते हैं तो इट्स वेरी हार्ड टू जस्ट फॉरगेट कि हम एक एक्टर हैं, और वो सिर्फ हम फिल्म देख पाएँ एक ऑडियंस की तरह नहीं भूल पाता है. हमेशा लगता है कि मैं वहाँ होती तो ये होता तो, बट पहली बार ऐसा हुआ कि नहीं हुआ. मैंने सिर्फ कहानी देखी और उसके साथ में रही. सो congratulations to the entire team.
Thank you.
Well, lovely. If a film makes you feel that way, that's really a gift, and that's a testament to the film. If there is no other, yes.
I'm Swati Mukherjee, and I was associated with an organization, the Vatsalya Foundation, working with the marginalized children. Earlier they were known as street children. I would request that why don't you invite the children to make films? Because we have seen a film, and we had done that with Namita Prem Kumar and Kapil Mattu with Film Bug, and it's on the YouTube also, Zoya story and Dusri Zindagi. So they did 2 films, and Imtiaz Barolia, in fact, rejected 32 scripts written by the children because it was all, they were just thinking. And when they sat with Imtiaz and did that, so it's on the YouTube, those 2 films are there. And after that, it was Book My Show who Book a Smile had sponsored. After that, I didn't find anyone to, because it's expensive. You know how a camera works and all that and everything. And we didn't find a sponsor for it. And I'm also associated with Bemolra Memorial Committee. So I requested Inkidi to teach the children filmmaking so that we have more films like that, and we have a hall where our children film can be screened. That's a request, if you all can think of sponsoring it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I can answer. So Kapil Mattu is a friend of mine. So I know from so many years he's doing this wonderful job of educating kids about filmmaking. And most amazing part is that he takes children from, not just from Mumbai, but he goes from city to city and underprivileged kids. And he really puts his soul, he has a team, and they really take workshops, and eventually they do produce a film also. And like probably before the lockdown happened, I also attended one of the festival where they invited all these kids from all over India. I don't know, there were 40, 50, 60 kids. Yes, and there were like 10 or 12 films which were screened, and that was a beautiful event. So congratulations to you that you are part of such an organization, and you're educating the future of our country. So yeah, maybe somebody for sure would be inspired and they would put in their efforts into educating more kids and more filmmakers. Thank you so much.
Swapna, I want to ask one sort of movie geek question. You know, as a movie geek, I mean, there are images in this film that just are gorgeous, and to create those must have been such a high. Whether it's Samay diving into that pool of film of celluloid, or that DIY sort of theater, the cinema that they create with the kids clapping and saying the dialogues and singing along. I mean, did it sort of satiate the movie buff in you working on a project like this?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a cinematographer's dream to work on something like this. And yeah, I mean, it was great. It was great working with all these guys, the kids who are not here as well. I can't tell you how much all of us kind of fell in love with them, and we brought them back home. We are in touch with all of them, but so yeah, it was a dream project. And with Nalin, I would love to say that it's with him. It's more like a small family goes to a place and comes back with a film. You know, so it has happened to me multiple times, which is like a privilege, you know, to do. So yeah, it was great.
Bhavin, आप अमेरिका जा रहे हैं फिल्म के साथ? All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you to this wonderful panel. Thank you for a
beautiful,
evocative film.
Thank
This
you
was
so
lovely.
much
Thank
for
you so
having
much.
all of us.
Thank you for being such a lovely audience.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming, and congratulations to G5A for their 7th anniversary.